welcome to the Mancunian Candidates here on Fab Radio International and YouTube. We've got a packed show tonight, so I don't know what time we'll finish, about 10-ish, 10 past 10, who knows, but I'm really pleased about tonight's show. My name's Paul Ripley.
And that's easy for him to say, and I'm Mike Royce, and tonight we're going to have a look at a lot of stuff that's going on. If you're watching this show on a regular basis, you will know that we made certain expectations readily available about what would happen with Brexit if you were stupid enough to go with it, and also if certain things didn't go right in the United States. So tonight we are split completely down the middle. We have some fantastic guests on, and we're going to look into what's going wrong in the UK and what has gone wrong in the United States and where we go from here. So I think to open the show, we've got an interview that we conducted earlier with Professor Tudor Rickards, who we wanted to chat about what is going on with the leadership of this country.
Well, before we start, what a name. Is it slightly Dutch?
I have no idea. Well, Tudor obviously is Welsh, and the Rickards is assorted Richards and Rickards and so on.
Fantastic. Right, let's get straight to it. Brexit, the Tory government, and we're in a mess. How did we get here?
Well, that's what I've been trying to figure out for the last 6 years or so, from the very day of the referendum. And if you look at all the information that's flowed through the media since then, it's obviously an extremely complicated situation. And now there's 2 or 3 main sort of belief systems emerging. I mean, the one emerging system is that there's been a huge triumph for the UK because we've overcome the shackles of the EU, and we're now free to do our own things in the future, and we're being led forward by one of the people who was responsible for the success of the referendum on behalf of the Leave side. So that's the one theory that's to be found reading quite a large number of our national newspapers every morning. That's the theory. So the second theory is that the original referendum was itself phrased in such a way that it was difficult for people to know what they were voting for. The outcome became known as the will of the people. The will of the people being 52 against 48% of a small proportion of the country, of the electorate that voted. And after that, we've been waiting for an enormous, what I've called the Battle of Brexit, which is going on since the June of 2016, and culminating in, if you remember, the bongs for Brexit in January the 31st of last year. So they're the 2 main theories. So who's correct? Who knows? You can argue that history is going to say which of these lines is going to be correct. But what we can then do is start analysing the information that we do have about particularly the decisions that are being made by the leaders of the various parties. So if we want to put the leaders under the microscope, obviously the starting point now would be Boris, and then go back and have a look at the leadership of Theresa May, and even looking at the leadership of David Cameron, who brought the election about the referendum about in the first place. So that's the sort of leadership playing field, if you like, we have to look at, and it's quite complicated.
My thoughts on it, I mean, just recently, I mean, we need to cover how we got here, but my thoughts are that Boris, when he took control, he kicked out people, I won't say people with half a brain cell, but kicked out so many people, brought his own people in, who was just nodding dogs, really. He was just agreed with him on Brexit. And now we're in a situation where, well, they're struggling, aren't they?
Well, there's certainly
that way?
Well, there's no doubt that there's been an enormous amount of talent that existed in the Conservative Party, and a lot of them gradually drifted away, some before Boris arrived, and afterwards when he didn't want anything to do with them. So in terms of wasting the capital that he might have been able to use in his cabinet, and there's no doubt that he's ended up with people who would normally be considered not really cabinet quality, and I would say not leadership quality. So he's made a bit of a rod for his own back, and it does look as if the main criterion for selection is utter acceptance of everything that Boris and indeed the people who influence Boris wants them to do. So if you go back, that links in with Cummins, of course, and so on.
Yeah. That's another story. But it reminds me so much of Trump and his way of doing things, that he brings people around him who will just agree with him, and talent is a side issue.
No, that's right. And I mean, there's so many parallels with Trump. There are differences as well, but some of the parallels, the one you've picked out is a particularly clear one, that Trump can't stand anyone commenting in a way that goes against his prior beliefs. And so that really he's a lot more extreme than Boris, of course. But in that sense, I don't think Boris likes to hear bad news. And he certainly doesn't like to promote bad news, which isn't good for a leader, really. Part of the skill is being able to break bad news, not pretend it doesn't exist, you know.
Yeah, and bring together a broad church of opinion as well to some workable direction.
Right.
With regards to COVID and the coronavirus and the response of the government, we've been commenting on piecemeal issues such as when lockdowns should have started, when certain things should have been brought into play, the ridiculous situation heading into Christmas where it seemed that those few days of relaxation of the rules at Christmas were going to cost way too much in human lives. And do you feel that unfortunately we've got the wrong government in at the wrong time?
Well, it's a tricky one, that. I think that there's no doubt that the British electorate believes that any government would have struggled under these circumstances. So if you start looking at it through the eyes of the vaccines coming in, but before that, the virus, then it is a totally new environment. And I think a lot of slack that Boris is getting from the electorate is because people are saying, well, I don't think the other side would have made any difference, really. Now, whether that's true or not, who knows? But I think that's what's going on. And it looks as if the polls that are coming back, even the Labour Party polls, are suggesting that the electorate's not swinging away from this government because of the way they've been handling the crisis. So at one political level, we have to say that they're not doing as badly as you might expect. There
were some polls that suggested that Labour had got a small percentage lead over the Conservatives, though, over the last couple of weeks. Do you agree maybe that if we had an election now, it would might be a hung parliament?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's it does look as if about 40% of the population are rather constantly sticking with the two, and it does look as if Starmer has gradually pulled up, and so the two seem to be running. And with the variation that you get with a single poll, it doesn't be making as much progress as they would have hoped, any more than they hoped the same thing would happen before the last election, if you remember.
Yes.
They should have been far further ahead than they were. Now, Corbyn got the blame for all that. And again, history's going to decide how this is all falling out. But that was the evidence, is that the Labour Party, or the opposition, if you like, was not making as much progress as should have been in terms of the evidence in front of people.
How do you think the media has reacted overall?
I'm sorry?
How do you think the media has reacted, whether it's newspaper or the TV reports, particularly the BBC, on this? Have they supported the government, do you think, or have they done the job and supposed to be independent?
That's a nice one for me to hit over the boundary. Yeah. I mean, the British mainstream media, by and large, is so committed to the Conservative Party, or at least to the Conservative Party, let's say, that it's always going to dominate the press. So that's the first disappointment, is that if you wanted to have fair information portrayed to the public, then don't just rely on the mainstream media. But then you come to the BBC, which is the second part of your question. Now, I must admit, the news I get has been dominated by the BBC for many years. I was brought up with the BBC, and I believed them, and by and large I thought it was the sort of information that was true, and so on and so forth. Now, it does seem that over the last 10 years, the BBC itself has been under pressure from forces that are suggesting if you're not careful, you're going to lose your license fee, and who knows, people would like to see us move towards an American system where you've got a state broadcaster is something that's just far too socialist, and there are pressures to even get rid of the BBC. So arguably, there are forces that are making the BBC a bit tentative, to put it mildly, in terms of the way they treat the news, and particularly the political news.
What I found is there's what I always refer to as, and people refer to as, the false equivalency, where back in the early 70s, you wouldn't be interviewing an astronaut or someone from NASA and also have somebody that denied it ever happened and thought it was a conspiracy on there. Whereas now we're taking established scientific facts and we're giving airtime sometimes to people that I feel don't deserve airtime. Their view is not valid.
No, I think that's right. And then you can link in what a lot of people now are deciding, that the way to get the news is through the internet and the social networks and so on. And so at least there's another set of beliefs being expressed. But of course, you've got the same problem now, and so Facebook is now in the problem of do we have any right, or should we monitor anything that's going out on Facebook? And that's become itself a battle of what can be presented and what can't be. Is it okay to have equal space for people who believe that the vaccine is a myth? Because that's what's happening.
Yeah, that's what I firmly believe, that there needs to be censorship on certain parts of this, and it's a thin end of the wedge, because the minute you start to censor certain aspects of free speech, you open a door that somebody can use in a sinister manner, don't you?
Well, I tried, and it's by and large, it seems to me, the arguments are easier to present if you present these sort of views. The idea of a conspiracy theory is now becoming quite important. How do we identify a conspiracy theory? And you're talking about America, the conspiracy theories over there about why Trump has actually won the election. It's just a simple recent example why Trump has won the election. But then to believe that the opposition have actually got a series of pizza parlors that are open to the gratification to the politicians, and people, well, they act as if they believe it. That's all you can, as far as you can go, I suppose.
The problem is they seem so far-fetched that the fact that such a large section of the population believe it is terrifying. That they believe that Tom Hanks is in charge of a paedophile ring with no evidence whatsoever is quite astonishing to me. Well, I don't understand from day to day what this party is. I mean, I understood when there was the switch to the new right under Thatcher. It made sense. They were hijacking liberal policies and free market policies and going with Hayek and moving away from Keynesianism, and I understood that. And this they don't sit. 1 minute you have Boris and he's trying to come across as a reasonable one nation conservative, a caring, compassionate conservative, and then the next minute he's wanting to throw open the economy despite the coronavirus, because he seems to be putting a big emphasis on the economy, which brings you right back to Thatcherism. I mean, what is this new Conservative Party? What are its politics?
Well, the pieces that are being written about the new Conservatives suggest that they would like to, in a way, the Conservatives are everything except the idea of progressive. So you could call them the non-progressive party. Now, the non-progressive people are writing the leaflets and so on that are suggesting what they would like is to have the traditional old-fashioned, rather you call them the one-party Conservative Party, one party, so that it's almost the Victorian idea of the patrician class that are looking after the people on behalf of themselves, because they're not able to rule themselves. So you've got the old-fashioned classic conservatism coming through. And I can't remember the paper now, but there was one written by some of the people still in the cabinet some years ago about it that espoused these views, and really they were very, very and I suppose Jacob Rees-Mogg type views rather than this century, or I should say last century views, really.
Before you go, though, you've got a book coming out.
I have, yes. I hope.
Tell us about it.
Well, it started, I suppose, when I retired from academic life. I'm at the University of Manchester.
Yeah.
I've written books, textbooks and things all my life, and I thought I'd try my hand at self-publishing.
Oh, yeah.
And I was always connected with things to do with creativity, so I thought I'd write crime thrillers as well. So I started writing and self-publishing crime thrillers, which I've written a few. And then I got a taste of going back to writing some political work. So I started work with the referendum, and I thought I'd follow through what would happen. So as of the 23rd of June in 2000 and whenever it was 16, I started looking at the newspapers and writing what was happening every day. So I kept a diary every day, or a research notebook really. And then from that research notebook, I've produced a book with the spectacular title, Boris, Me and the BBC. I go to a bookshop until the lockdown, about twice a week, and talk with the owners. And so they've been showing me what sells and what doesn't sell and in their bookshelves. So I'm going to try it out first with my favourite bookshop and see if they will tell me which shelf to put it on even. I don't even know which shelf it should go on at the moment. But
well,
we'll see what happens.
When you go in the shop, if it's not at the front, move it.
Yeah, that's
what I believe is happening. That's what the sort of things the guys do, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's got to be done.
Tudor, thank you so much. We'll speak to you soon, and all the best to you and for the sales of the book. Take care.
Good. Well, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
And good luck on your programme.
Thank you.
What a lovely guy. Lovely guy. I like him.
Yeah. He knows his stuff. I can talk about political history and he doesn't fall asleep.
No.
I like that.
No. Still to come though on the show, we have an amazing story about a company based in Macclesfield here in the northwest of England who spent a lot of money, or want to spend a lot of money on selling their product, which is cheese, to Europe, and it's all changed. But before anything, I want to bring up this, Mike, if you don't know about it. Mm-hmm. I told you last week about Andrew Neil and his new channel started.
Yes.
And it's called GB News, which will be leaning to the right in a big way.
Oh, okay.
Just like maybe Newsmax. Yeah. However, Murdoch's not having that because he's not financing it. He's bringing out a new channel called News UK, which will also be leaning to the right.
Oh, brilliant.
So,
just what you want, isn't it? You want the same sort of crap that's going on in America brought over here, inflicting on everybody and making us all hate each other just the same.
Yeah. And it is hatred as well. It's genuine hatred going on online and social media.
Well, they seed it.
Yes.
They
Strange times. So if you're interested in right-wing news and want to become an absolute fascist, you must be happy. For the next few years, these channels will be on your TV screen.
Can't wait. We'll be here to debunk pretty much everything.
One of them.
Everything they say. So this week we're dealing at this point of the show with the UK, and we've had a bit of a problem with COVID denial again. We have been showing a lot of anti-COVID marches and freedom marches and all the rest of it, and it turns out that in our own Houses of Parliament we have a serpent that is doing more damage to us and on the road to recovery than you could possibly imagine.
Conservative MP Sir Desmond Swayne in November last year speaking to Save Our Rights UK, a group that's advanced false claims about the COVID vaccine and organised anti-lockdown protests. The topic of discussion, the risk posed by the virus to the NHS.
But it seems to be a manageable risk, particularly given the way that figures appear to have been manipulated. We are told that there is a deadly pandemic proceeding at the moment. That is difficult to reconcile with...
There is no evidence of figures being manipulated, and at the time of this interview, deaths were 14% above the 5-year average, according to the ONS. January the 15th this year, and Sir Desmond is giving another interview.
It is my absolute honour and pleasure to be inviting Sir Desmond Sweeney to the High Wire right now.
This time it's to Del Bigtree, leader of an anti-vaccination group and former producer for disgraced anti-vax medic Andrew Wakefield, where he's asked about the UK's latest lockdown.
Is there some other desire to control the people that has nothing to do with health? Where are you at with that?
There are aspects of this which I'm certain come down to social control, like the wearing of masks. The medical case, you've just rubbished it earlier.
Several studies have shown face masks can reduce the transmission of viruses.
Hello.
Hello, Sir Desmond.
Yeah.
Hello, hi, it's Rob Powell here, calling from Sky News. I'm a political correspondent. Sir Desmond Swayne wasn't available for an on-camera interview, but agreed to this phone call being recorded. On Del Bigtree, did you know who he was before you gave the interview?
I've never heard of Del Bigtree.
So he was someone that's anti-vaccine and has said that the COVID vaccine could be the greatest scientific blunder in the history of mankind.
I state, having a conversation with someone is not in any way associating yourself with his point of view.
You're lending the credibility of a member of parliament to some groups which have views which are not backed up by any scientific evidence.
Well, the point is this: we're a democracy. We believe in free speech and free expression.
But those who track anti-vax content online say Sir Desmond's comments will cost lives.
People, of course, have been confused by a new pathogen, a new disease which has emerged. It's caused a lot of concern. And to see a member of parliament feeding off that concern, feeding the beast, so to speak, is incredibly cynical, incredibly damaging, and will cost lives.
Sir Desmond Swayne.
The former minister in the Commons today, where a valid debate will continue about easing restrictions. But at such a perilous moment in the pandemic, many will question where and how this Tory MP has chosen to have this discussion. Rob Powell, Sky News in Westminster.
Quite amazing, quite amazing. And this type of, we vote for these people. We vote for these people.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
Well, many people do, don't they?
I don't vote for him.
No, but you're supposed to trust your government. You're supposed to trust your MP, your councillor. And it leads down this road, this rabbit hole where we talked before about a new news service starting.
Well, if he was in America, he'd be part of QAnon.
Yeah,
he'd be selling stories of underground pizza parlours that have got little rooms with kids that are held prisoner for paedophiles that are all part of the Democratic Party.
Which is the thing, the whole conspiracy world, they always jump on these things. Well,
they always end up at paedophiles.
Paedophiles.
Do you not remember here?
Israel.
It
carries on. There's certain things that it's always the same. Always the same. We don't trust this. We don't trust that. And it comes to a point is when will we be able to know who's telling the truth? When we'll have a news service or a media outlet which is just telling. When can you trust an MP again?
Well, the problem is you can trust certain people. You've got to. It's part of It's part of the process.
Like who?
It's part of the process.
Like who do you trust now?
There's plenty of people.
Do you trust the BBC News?
Yeah, I do.
You do? You still do?
Yeah, comparatively, yeah. It's all comparative. You go online and you see stuff on Twitter, you see stuff on Facebook. You can't believe it. You can't believe it at all unless it's come from a source that you trust. You've got to decide yourself who you trust.
The head of our government, the head of the UK, Boris said there'll be frictionless trade between us and Europe.
Yeah.
And he said that not too long ago.
Yeah.
Frictionless. Be fine.
Yeah, absolutely, he did.
Do we trust him again?
Well, I never trusted him to begin with.
There's a few messages that came through. One of them's from Eddie over in Ireland. He's saying about you cannot. I don't know where Northern Ireland lies really. Is it part of the EU or is it part of the UK? It's a weird situation. But if you send a plant to someone in Northern Ireland, it won't be admitted from the UK because they won't allow the soil to come in the country.
Yeah. Well, it's similar to what happens in Australia. Anyone who's watching all these border shows where they're very careful about people contaminating their ecosystem.
But we were supposed to be going to doing a deal where our standards are at such a level that it doesn't matter.
No,
probably higher than the EU.
That was bullshit, and everybody knew it. Everybody on the right side of the equation knew what was going on with Brexit. They knew the whole thing. The only people, a load of racists voted for it and brought it in and managed to get it over the finish line because there were just enough gullible people that believed that maybe it was better being off away from Europe, and that you could get the empire back and do all the rest of it. It's just the way it is.
It's amazing. I think about that as well. They were so concerned about our borders, about not letting anyone in.
Yeah.
Well, they're so concerned about that. No foreigners coming in. They opened them up when the COVID happened.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Fly in anywhere you want, just fly into this country.
There you
fly
go.
into this country,
That's
no
the
problem.
thing, isn't it?
And do you know the other
That's
day,
the
it was
problem.
quite amazing. I watched about how Brazil has been blocked. So I thought, it's blocked, so therefore Southern America and be okay. On news, at the airport, where have you just come from? Oh, Brazil. The following day, it's not blocked at all.
No.
What's going on? I mean, who do you trust anymore? Who do you trust? Strange times. Hopefully in the next few minutes, according to our guy, we should have Simon from the Cheshire Cheese Company on, but he's shaking his head, so it's not the case. But MasterCard have...
that is not the biggest problem we've got. MasterCard, I think we need to talk about after, but I think we need to have a look at something the EU's doing. The EU stepped over a line this week that it's not stepped over before. And if you want an update on COVID and Europe and everything that's going on, this video might do you some justice.
Vaccine delays are affecting Canada right now, as we are reporting to you, one of our top stories. But not only Canada. We're getting word of major production problems at AstraZeneca and its key manufacturing facility in Europe, which has angered the European Union. Officials there have threatened action to make sure they get the supplies they've been promised. Tessa Arcilia is on that story from London for us this morning. What are the problems that AstraZeneca is experiencing, Tessa?
Well, Heather, basically the company is saying this is all because of production problems, production delays. And Europe, the EU, is certainly not happy with the company falling short of their supply promises to the bloc. Now, there is no public confirmation on exactly how big that number is going to be, but it is reported to be significant. Reuters are reporting that up to 60% a cut in supply. Now, let's not forget something important here. It is the context in which this is happening. There is a lot of criticism, a lot of disappointment among citizens at the slow rollout of the vaccination program across the EU. And add to that an already decreased supply of the Pfizer vaccine, which is mainly manufactured in Belgium. Put that all together, there's a lot of frustration. And the EU is keen to show that they're doing their jobs, they're protecting and fighting for the rights of their citizens. Let's take a listen to the EU Commissioner for Health here.
In the future, all companies producing vaccines against COVID-19 in the EU will have to provide early notification whenever they want to export vaccines to third countries. The European Union will take any action required to protect its citizens and rights.
Now, that last line is strong there. Basically, what they're saying is if we can't get enough vaccines that are manufactured outside of the EU, like the AstraZeneca one, then we're going to have to hold and control the export of vaccines made inside the bloc, like the Pfizer one. So this could impact the Pfizer vaccine supply into the UK.
Now, there is a few issues about this. What Germany have said tonight is that the Oxford vaccine doesn't work or is effective for people over 65, so they're not going to give it to people over 65. And the problem Europe's got is they've but our priority as human beings is to look after certain groups of people, and we've done it. So oldest first, going down like a lifeboat.
Yes.
Women, children first.
Yeah.
So they've said we've not got enough vaccines to cover our Asian population over the 85s. And it should be right that the UK should give up some of theirs towards it. So it's not about a war, this.
No, it's not.
It's about supporting humanity.
Yeah, of course it is. But here's the thing. They signed an agreement. We signed an agreement. And at the end of the day, I'm massively on the side of Europe. I think we've actually treated these European countries despicably. And I understand from day one, I've been talking about this show on this show for years about how France didn't trust us. We got vetoed from Europe. We got in. And then after years and years, from the minute we got in Europe, we were moaning and complaining about being part of it. We never looked at any benefit from it. We looked at all the negatives and just concentrated on that. And we've been really crap bedfellows. And we're the worst flatmates that Europe could have ever got. And I don't think we were great. And but you've got to look at this in black and white terms. I mean, we signed an agreement with AstraZeneca that was 3 months before they did. And they are saying, quite rightly, the company, AstraZeneca, are saying, let's supply them with the vaccine first, because they were there first, yeah?
Maybe so, we'll continue that, but hopefully coming through to us right now is Simon from the Cheshire Cheese Company. Simon.
Hello. Hi there.
Hi there, thanks so much for coming in. I know you've been a busy man the last few days. Your face is popping up everywhere. You've had problems, but Mike's got a few words to say to you.
I have actually, yeah.
About your cheese.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm actually a massive fan. I absolutely love the product that you put out. I've been having your cheese for years. I've had the Black Bob, the sticky toffee. Your jerk cheese has been incredible, but possibly my favourite cheese ever is the Al Gringo, which the chili, lime and tequila cheddar. I think it's brilliant, that cheese. So I'm on your side on this all the way.
Excellent. Yeah. This is quite a popular one there. Not Black Bob is the all-time favourite, closely followed by caramelised onion rioja. So yeah, it's and we have grown a massive fan base, not just the UK, but we've started to grow one in the EU, which is obviously the problems that we're having. Yeah.
Can you explain to people who may have not picked up on this story what happened to you and the background to it, really?
Yeah, sure. We were from this year, from the beginning of the new year, we came back with high hopes and great plans, and we started shipping to the EU our consumer parcels. This is from the online orders there, because we have three sections to the build. A wholesale division, so we ship big container loads and pallets of cheese to various countries, including the EU and Canada, America. But we also have an online business, which is our consumer sales. So you buy your cheese online, 20, 30 quid, we ship it off directly to your country. So we started sending our parcels off as normal, as we had been doing for several years before, and 100% of them came back again. So the problem was that we couldn't find out exactly why they were coming back. And DHL, our couriers, they were struggling as well. They were saying, well, it must be teething problems, it must be paperwork, it must be invoices. And it took a quite painful 2 weeks until sort of the 18th of January before it became apparent what that actually was, what the problem was. The problem is that new regulations have come in for shipping what everybody in this industry believed was for wholesale. So one of the regulations is that you now have to ship anything into this foodstuff into the EU, a EHC document. Now that is a certificate that's issued by a veterinary surgeon. I know it sounds really weird, but it really is. A real vet comes in, looks at it and basically says, yes, this is cheese made from cow's milk, and therefore I'm going to stamp the piece of paper. For the cost for doing that is £180 per consignment. Okay. So it's not something you can.
Wow.
Can I just clarify? Consignment. You're not talking about a shipping container. You're talking about each individual product sent.
This is either a product sent or a container. this is where the problem lies.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, this regulator came in and said that they were treating exactly the same as somebody buying 35 quid the cheese online. Now,
correct.
Let me give you the equivalent to this.
I get that.
We ship in bulk to Canada and the United States and Norway, other non-EU countries, and there is exemption in place for all consumer purchases, and they have an allowance. So you can buy in Canada and America the cheese online, and you don't need an EHC certificate with it, obviously, because we wouldn't be shipping there if we did. So what seems to have happened is somewhere, who knows where, at some point, either it's a fast one by the EU or an oversight by the UK, it has meant that we've had to stop completely selling our online sale products over to the EU, and there's just no way around this. There isn't a side door shortcut. That's it. It's end at the moment.
So you were going to expand your company, and the way I see it, you asked for advice on this, and they said, well, you should produce a fulfillment centre in France or in the EU.
Well, first of all, it was exceptionally difficult trying to find or get any help or any information. So I'm also the director of the Hearties and Creamery in Derbyshire. So we're the smallest Stilton maker in the world, but the finest Stilton makers, we would say as well.
Sure.
So I contacted Sarah Dean's MP. She is the Matlock MP that covers Matt there. I also contacted David Rotley, who is my local MP in Macclesfield. And David and Sarah eventually got back to me. They were as surprised as I was that we couldn't get anything through. Now, again, they couldn't actually shed any light into this. It was up to DHL in the end. DHL on the 18th of January, they sent me over a list and said, we know why this is. And here's a list of the 26 countries. And next to it was animal foodstuffs are disallowed from Germany. All meat, cow's milk, seafood, fish, banned from, etc., etc. Each country had a slightly different variation, but the bottom line was you couldn't ship anything that's got foodstuffs in. So they again reported back to them, and the hardest thing really was actually making people believe me that this was a real thing and had actually happened. They had completely and utterly missed the fact that no food producer can now ship directly to the EU.
This is amazing. Isn't
Well,
it?
we've had on this show for the last from the minute the referendum came up, we were talking about the downside of this possibly being way worse than anything you could possibly get. And we've been not campaigning, but certainly we've been on the side of not doing this insanity. And this sounds like an absolute nightmare. What do you think, if you don't mind me asking? Because I'm a person that also runs a company based in Manchester. I understand how difficult you've had this year with COVID and stuff, and you should have been doing all right out of that side of it, the exports. Maybe that could have compensated. And how much damage has this done to you?
Well, I mean, there was two things really one, it's exceptionally disappointing because we had a fantastic year last year. We decided, I'm a positive person, I run a positive company, and therefore we decided 2 years ago that we would actually we're going to make a go of this there. We then got the multilingual versions of our website created, so we got the French and the German versions on there. We invested heavily in marketing last year as well, and our actually whole online business grew by 400%. A lot of that was obviously because because we had obviously people shifting to online, but we'd also actually grown the EU market because we thought, well, let's have a running start at this one. Let's give ourselves a good chance. Let's really push it. So when we go into the alleged sunny uplands and promised world we were all told we're going to have, we had a fighting chance. We'd be a bit ahead of the game. So nobody could ever, moaning, moping, or not positive about the future. So the other thing we realised, because we had such substantial growth last year, was we'd outgrown our current warehouse and fulfilment. So myself and my fellow directors said, well, let's pool our pensions here and let's build a bigger fulfilment centre opposite where we are now. So we've got the planning permission in Macclesfield. That's all done. Yeah. So around about £1 million by the time it's built to actually build this place, because we thought, well, we've got another £180,000 of the business, and we expect that to be 250,000 growth by next year from the EU alone.
Sure.
We became thought, well, that it's not really that much of a gamble there. Good contribution. So to sort of slapped around the face a bit with the start realisation, and it was me forwarding to the trade bodies as well, NFU, to DEFRA, would you believe, the government, and the MPs. Here's the list. I think this is what's happening there. And it was really hard to make them sort of switch the light on and go, actually, well, it looks like it is. So I ended up a few days later again after that. Finally, DEFRA rang me, and a representative was obviously sympathetic, but said, I'm afraid there doesn't seem to be a quick fix to this one. It's we don't know what's gone on or why, but and I said, well, one of my options is, my only options could be to open up in the EU a distribution centre, because I can't see a way around this. To which I was told, well, to be honest with you, that has to be your only option, because quite genuinely there isn't any other option.
It sounds absolutely awful. I mean, if you were to if you could speak to people now who were watching this show, who they were sceptical one way or the other about Project Fear, about the real repercussions of doing business if you don't get this deal correct. What would you say if they're still saying, this is just an isolated incident and maybe this deal is okay and this is just one of those things?
I mean, I think as it stands at the moment there, I think what we need is a united front of basically UK consumers here to actually do what I've done, make as much noise as possible to actually try and get myself heard. Yes. And interestingly, only today, I passed the message over to Sarah Deans and said that last night via email, David Rutland said, look, here's an update for you. I've done 50 plus interviews up to now, not just with TV, radio and news in the United Kingdom, but all over the world. I mean, I've got another 15 booked in already as well for the next few days, including Saturday. Yeah. This is, I've got an interview after this with South Korean radio at 10:40. Okay. We've got Chinese state television coming down on Monday, German national TV coming up on Saturday, ZDF television. So this is actually, this is global. This, I mean,
good for you.
Really what it is, there's a great interest in this from all over the world, because they want to know what's gone wrong as well, I think, really.
This is the reality. You're giving them the reality, and fair play to you. You've done it well.
Simon, who do you actually blame for this? Who do you, if you could, I mean, it's a hard one to say, I know, but does it lie on Boris's front door?
I tell you, I think it is the government's fault and my theory on this is it's all to do with the non-alignment with EU food standards in October 2020. So I don't know if you remember, there was a battle over the agriculture bill. It was, and in October 2020, it went to the Lords, it was rejected. They said, you're not lowering our food standards. Yeah. It went back to the House, and then Boris Johnson used his whip and majority to make amendments to the bill that allowed the bill to pass and gave the UK government the right to lower standards. Now, my understanding was that his big dream was that Donald Trump would get another turn and we would have a fantastic US trade deal for food. The only way that could possibly happen is by Britain reducing its own food standards. This is food standards we helped to put in place and have been using since 2002. My belief is that if we had not reduced our food standards, this wouldn't be happening. I wouldn't be having an interview with you. All the fishermen would still be actually able to get their catch over there. Our exports of all our food producers, because I tell you what, we have shipped wholesale in the last week. It's an absolute nightmare. Where it should take 10 minutes, it took nearly 3 hours, and there is no help to actually work out what's going on. So, I think the government is to blame in the fact that they jumped the gun. They believed there was going to be some fantastic, lucrative trade deal on offer, but the person that could have instigated that is no longer actually in power.
Yeah.
So
it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. I mean, the British food industry. You look back and how it's grown and how it's got better, and the quality's just risen and risen, and here we are now in a situation where this is happening. It's criminal. Yeah. I actually think it's criminal, and it's just heartbreaking. Any story for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing has happened through the campaigning is I had a phone call today from Saudis, and she has said she would like to arrange a meeting for myself with the ministers George Eustace and Victoria Prentice, herself and my own constituent MP David Rutley, because they said they very much want to actually discuss and try and find some form of solution for us. Now, I've already said to them, I can't see a future in the EU for us trading online, because we've looked at the cost of having a fulfillment centre out there. It's just too expensive. It's we're not big enough to be able to actually justify that kind of cost. Sure. So my other option is to look completely opposite direction, which is actually the USA and Canada. We already export to both of those places in wholesale. We can ship to them. The only slight obstacle is that it is more expensive to ship online parcels to Canada and the US. We have to use a 2-day service. It's an average about £20 per parcel. If we could get that down to, I don't know, £12 a parcel, £10 a parcel, that would be a fantastic market, not just for us, but for the rest of the UK.
I understand that, but it's a crazy situation where we've got France literally 12 miles across the channel, and we can't deal with the country like that. It's like we're at war with them. It's not. I mean, I read the other day maybe trade wars coming from the EU towards us, and I'm just lost with the whole situation. And it's not about politics, really. It's about it's not about who you vote for. If you Remain, I presume you was a Remainer, by the way.
Yes, I was Remain. I fully accepted the democratic vote, as we should all accept democracy. Yeah. And as you know, nobody could accuse me of moping about it, feeling sorry for myself, because I wouldn't have invested in the way I did with multi-language and also lots of marketing and increasing that EU customer base. So it was a positive response to the situation.
Simon, thank you so much for joining us. Unless you've got a few more words to say, Mike.
Well, I just want to say that, fantastic business. Please don't give up on the North here, and keep fighting.
No, never.
Keep fighting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the last thing I can say is actually that when I was talking to DEFRA, I don't know if you realise this, but there's no reciprocal arrangement in place at all. So at the moment, all of the EU's producers are allowed to freely ship into the UK, zero restriction. They've got 6 months get out of stay in Britain.
So much worse.
Yeah. So she actually said, and I said, so what's that all about? She said, well, if it makes you feel any better, it's any consolation. In July, we're going to reciprocate and we're going to ban ban the EU producers shipping foodstuffs directly to consumers in the UK. I said, well, that's not actually a win for anybody. That's not a win for the EU consumer, the UK consumer. It just reduces our freedom of choice. That is a tit-for-tat political battle, which we should be not involved with for a start. They want to have a little bicker and then leave the consumers out of it.
Yeah. I think it just needs some adults in charge, really, because I'm just lost.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah, Simon, please, we'll keep in contact with you. It's okay, and just hear how long your battle goes on for and how it turns out.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming on, Simon.
Yeah, wonderful. You take care.
My pleasure. Always my pleasure. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Simon Spurrell from the Cheshire Cheese Company, and what a guy he is. I like his attitude, his positive attitude, which he's pushing there.
Yeah, he voted for an outcome he didn't get and then tried to make the best out of it, went all the way down to the wire, cooperated with the situation, and he's got absolutely shafted.
And that's an amazing situation there, which is the news that we're going to fight back against them. Now, what will Denmark do in bacon?
Yeah.
Will the prices here rise to a level where people can't afford food anymore?
It's irrelevant. Yeah, we're going to all
that's
be.
What we're talking about, aren't we?
We're on the losing end of
this. We
import
import so much from Holland, in particular, and France. Vegetables. I mean, are they going to be like £180 charge on all these types of stuff coming over here?
We are on the losing end.
Will
of
Lidl
this.
come the same price as Waitrose?
But I've just got to say now, this situation with Europe is going to continue to get worse, and we've actually found out about something that's going to be happening with a major credit card provider. So this is the thing that you're getting with Europe right now. You're getting a creeping death of 1,000 paper cuts almost, where everything's slowly coming real. It's all becoming real. All the costs are all piling in. And later on this year, we've got problems with MasterCard.
From October this year, MasterCard is going to increase its fees 5-fold for EU firms that are taking money from UK customers. Now, that doesn't mean that MasterCard is charging you and me and all consumers. It means they're charging more money to the EU retailers and traders when they sell to us in the UK. But what's the result of that? Well, it's obvious. What they will do is they'll pass the expense of this onto the consumer. And that means that buying goods in the EU will become more expensive. Obvious this was going to happen. Now we're seeing it really is going to happen. This is going to happen from October. It's another reason not to buy from the EU, as well as the fact that the consumer rights are always never as good as they are here. Also, the other point here as well, not to do with MasterCard, but if you buy in the EU, something goes wrong, no longer can you go to the English courts to deal with the matter. That went with Brexit. Now, MasterCard have given a statement about this. As a result of the UK leaving the EEA, MasterCard will adapt interchange rates on UK cards to the commitments it gave the European Commission in 2019 for non-EEA card transactions. In practice, only EEA merchants making e-commerce sales to UK cardholders will see a change. Interchange is not a consumer-facing cost, but the fees paid between merchants and banks for the provision of payments. Consumers should not feel any impact of changes in interchange fees. Of course, that's not how it's going to work in practice. Consumers will obviously feel the impact of this because EU traders will just increase their prices. It's obvious.
Scary, scary times ahead.
So are we all happy now? Some of the content that we've been listening to lately, this particular one is very, very, very simple. They have decided to 5-fold increase the fees, so you are going to be cut off from buying stuff in Europe unless you want to pay a ridiculous amount of money. You've got all the rest of the stuff that's been going on as well, which we've not commented on, which is all the additional VAT tariffs have all started kicking in. So this oven ready Brexit has not turned out to be that oven ready. It's turned out to be actually quite horrific, hasn't it?
But we all voted for it. We all voted for it.
Oh, we all voted
perhaps
for
not
it.
all of us.
I don't even think people who voted to leave Europe voted for this. There was no explanation about this. There was no explanation about the costs of all this. And now you are getting that 8:30 knock in the morning. And not only are you out of bed and you're going, well, why couldn't you have posted that through the letterbox? Come on, look at it. Because I get that a lot. Yeah. I get a Blu-ray. I bought it from America. It's made it all the way across America, across the sea, across to here. And then it's not even you sign for it. You don't have to. But the postman thinks he's got to knock me up rather than just push it through the letterbox because it might disintegrate on the way down. And yes, I am having a go at you, Mr. Postman, on that one. But now he knocks you up and you're annoyed. And then he goes, 30 quid, please.
This is interesting, this £30 charge, by the way. And in Ireland, we had another message before from Eddie over in Ireland. And he was saying that they throw on this extra price, but they want it in cash.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
That sounds a bit...
But that's the way it goes.
Cash.
Well, whenever I used to buy stuff from America and it'd come and it wasn't registered as a gift, I remember buying a Blu-ray player, it turned up, and the idiot hadn't put gift on it, and it was in the actual Blu-ray player box just with a little label on with my name, and I ended up 100 and odd quid. It cost more than buying it from the shop here. So there was there you go. You get what you wish for, and I guess this is the whole Brexit thing. That if it was an egg, it's just hatching now, and it turns out that you're not getting the offspring that you wanted out of that egg.
It's a good job we're not in the middle of a pandemic while all this is going on. I think it's really, really hard.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? But
to move on.
Yes, in America. We've only just got to America at this point in the show, so that's probably a good thing. I would expect. But Biden's inauguration in America, in case you're wondering, has it caused anything on the right wing? Has it caused any upset? No. The Malkin is back, and she has got some comments on Biden's inauguration.
We are in the midst of the greatest media gaslighting campaign in modern American history. Just surf the Silicon Valley-controlled news headlines. Story after story breathlessly warning of the reign of right-wing terrorism. What's fueling the growth of right-wing terrorism? That's CNN. Global right-wing extremism networks are growing, the Soros-funded ProPublica website warns. Right-wing menace will now be a regular feature of American politics, the Washington Post declares. As you all know, 25,000 National Guard troops were dispatched to quell all this alleged rise in right-wing extremism. In a melodramatic act of kabuki theater, Democrats turned D.C. into a militarized bubble zone more heavily fortified than the Baghdad Green Zone. And yes, I know, I was in Iraq's Green Zone in 2007. But it wasn't Trump supporters who wrought havoc and incited hatred and perpetrated violence this inauguration week. No, it was the same old Antifa and Black Lives Matter rioters who've terrorized our country for the past 4 years without a peep of worry from the concerned trolls at CNN, ProPublica, and the Washington Post. Their anarchist banners, decorated with rifles, demanded revenge against police. In Seattle, the Antifa stormtroopers, yes, that's what they are, also took to the streets, smashing, trashing, looting, and burning everything in sight, including the iconic original Starbucks downtown. The rioters targeted police, federal courthouse workers, and federal ICE agents. They tossed rocks at journalists, they shut down traffic, and they rampaged the streets with impunity as usual.
We made sure we kept our distance because this group was so volatile and unpredictable. I mean, just look at how they smashed up this federal courthouse. Now, there were only about 50 or 60 of them, but for a short time, they seemed to have the run of the city. Vandals spent extra time at this building where Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, has one of its offices. On the street out front, they burned a flag and littered the roadway with newspaper racks, rental bicycles, and construction barricades to disrupt traffic as people headed through downtown Seattle during the evening commute.
So where are all the Democrat leaders who suddenly discovered this newfound respect for police and the troops after the January 6th protest in D.C.? Oh, and where are all the FBI billboards seeking information on the Black Bloc insurrectionists? In every city now across the heartland, the FBI is hunting down every last Trump supporter who showed up at the Capitol on January 6th. The feds are urging Americans to snitch on conservatives in the name of public safety and national security.
The FBI out of Albany expects more arrests in the region and is asking for local leads using a billboard along I-690, one of thousands of similar billboards up across the country.
A new digital billboard in southern Indiana is encouraging people to report tips about the deadly Capitol riot last week. It sits off I-265. The FBI has already opened hundreds of criminal cases into what sparked a large group to storm the Capitol while Congress was certifying the Electoral College votes. Federal investigators have been using social media to post pictures of people who were allegedly involved as they try to find more information about those responsible.
Thousands of those billboards. The FBI praised the private outdoor advertisers for their swift cooperation.
The outdoor advertisers' willingness to assist in bringing these criminals to justice, as well as the speed in which they are able to publicize crucial public safety information, is a credit to those organizations.
Of course, none of those companies would dare to partner with the feds to hunt down violent Antifa and Black Lives Matter militants, lest they be doxxed, deplatformed, and destroyed by the true menaces to American society.
The true menaces to American society. Well, what you've got to realise here is she's the true menace to American society, and what you, Paul, we're talking about with a news channel.
GB News and News UK, that could be, well, they call it Newsweek over in the States.
Who would it be? Who would it be?
Lies and lies.
I'm going to throw a person out now that could be a presenter on one of these.
Go
on. Katie Hopkins.
She could well be a presenter on these.
And that's who you'd end up with on TV, mainstream, no escape, and also be on a platform where you think that you've actually got to listen to this stupid
and
woman.
obviously, Mr. Farage.
Of course, he'd be on it as well. And this is what you'd end up with. So you've had that response there, but Trump has not gone away, and Trump has actually decided that now is the time to open his office of operations and get on with what he's got planned.
And new this morning, former President Donald Trump's office has announced the formation of the Office of the Former President. The release sent to us said the office will handle Trump's correspondence, public statements, appearances, and official activities to, quote, advance the interests of the United States and to carry on the agenda of the Trump administration through advocacy, organizing, and public activism, end quote. The statement ended saying President Trump will always and forever be a champion for the American people, end quote.
So the champion of the American people has got his office.
Yep.
And he's ready.
He's ready to go.
He's ready to go for his 2024 run.
There's talk about another party. Is he still going to be part of the Republicans?
There was a party formed this week called the Patriots.
Yep.
And they formed it. And it was all the people that were, a lot of people that were involved in the Capitol riots. They formed the Patriots and then got in touch with Donald Trump and his people and went, we formed this party for you, and wanted him to assume the head of it. Yeah. And he said no.
So far.
No, he said no because he's still got the Republican Party. Why would you have that? Why would you take over something like that? It's the same as when Momentum took over Labour. Why didn't they run as Momentum? Well, no, Labour's a brand. They had that, the same as all these other people.
We shall see. I think there's still something left in that. If it goes all wrong at some stage, he will jump on it.
You never know. Also, this week, unfortunately, everything was going well we got the Senate over in America, so the left had it. The Democrats had the Senate, so you could pass a vote with 50 votes to 50 with Kamala Harris as the tiebreaker. So that was fine. But you needed to get rid of the filibuster. The filibuster meant that you needed 60 votes to pass a majority in the House. And that was a problem. So they wanted to get rid of the filibuster and then go to a situation where a majority vote that they've got 50 votes to 50, and they've also got the vice president to break. And it is a situation that happened last year. Over the last few years, it's happened the other way round. And 2 Democrats decided that they were slightly more right-wing than some people on the Republican Party and decided to wreck it.
Progressives are urging Senate Democrats to do away with the legislative filibuster, which of course indicates that the Senate would need 60 votes in order to pass most legislation, especially sweeping legislation that Biden wants to pass as part of his presidential agenda. Now, we got word that Senate Majority Leader, or former Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, had held up negotiations regarding the rules in the Senate, which he has to negotiate with the incoming Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, because he wanted a promise on paper, a written commitment that the Senate Democrats would not do away with the filibuster. Senator Schumer said, no, I am not committing to that. We want to be able to have that option on the table. Well, we just found out that Mitch McConnell has decided to agree. Okay, that's fine. We have the power sharing rules in place. Let's sign off on this. Let's get the process going. And people were wondering why the change of heart? Well, it turns out that there are 2 Democratic lawmakers, conservative Democrats, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who have committed to voting no on doing away with the filibuster. And so I'm gonna go to their quotes right now, including one spokesperson for Senator Sinema, who says that the senator is not open to changing her mind about eliminating the filibuster. So she's not even open to that discussion. She wants to maintain the filibuster, which, by the way, makes it abundantly clear that the policies that the Democratic Party want to pass will be impossible to pass because they are not going to get enough Republican senators to sign on with them. They will serve as obstructionists. And Kyrsten Sinema, a right-wing Democrat, has decided to side with them. Fantastic. Same with Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin says, if I hadn't said it very plain, maybe Senator McConnell hasn't understood. I want to basically say it for you that I will not vote in this Congress, meaning not vote to get rid of the filibuster. That's 2 years, right? So, by the way, unfortunately, he's not seeking re-election until 2024. I looked because I would love to get Manchin out of the Senate. Kyrsten Sinema still has a pretty lengthy term left as well, which is why they probably feel emboldened and empowered enough to stand in the way of passing legislation that's desperately needed right now.
I can't stand his fingers.
His fingers?
These fingers, they're just big fat sausages.
So will anything happen in America? The American politics, to me, is complicated because they seem to like pull the rabbit out of the hat from somewhere, and they seem to change things around when it suits, and at times I get lost with it. But we're going to finish the show tonight with a friend of yours in the States.
Oh, indeed, yeah. You've got a situation where the most unlikeliest of things became a focal point during the last few days. At the inauguration, you might think that people were looking at what the First Lady was wearing, which she had a wonderful pair of pale powder blue gloves that matched her coat. Fantastic. Joe looked all right. It was nice and dapper. Everyone looked good. Later on in the inauguration ball, his daughter, Ashley Biden, was wearing a tuxedo and everyone freaked out over that. But even that wasn't the big focal point. The focal point was that Joe Biden was wearing a Rolex watch.
A Rolex.
So I just seen on Fox News that our so-called president, Joseph Biden, has a Rolex. It's disgusting. I mean, who does this man think he is? Ric Flair? My pastor? You know, we've not seen a vulgar display of wealth like this in this country from a president. I don't think ever. This man's just out of touch. And I bet he wouldn't last 1 minute on The Price is Right. You know, Steve Harvey would ask, how much is this, I don't know, box of rice-a-roni? Joe would pick it up, look at it, see that's a family size. He'd say, oh, I don't know, this is probably worth 3 Rolexes. Regis' final answer. The man just out of touch. I mean, so much for being the champion of the working class. You know, this man's been bought and paid for by big wristwatch since day one.
Okay.
From big wristwatch.
We're going to fuck off now. And I just want to leave you, as we go, with one image. Thank you for watching. I'm impressed. You've passed the IQ test and got this far, so let's press that button to do the last thing that helps us. It's got subscribe on it, you can't miss it, and please ring the bell for notifications of future videos.